There's a secret code hidden in the 81 chapters of the Tao Te Ching that Lao Tzu never directly revealed, but when uncovered, it completely transforms our relationship with power, success, and inner peace. For over 2,000 years, millions of people have read these words without realizing that each verse isn't just philosophy. It's a specific frequency that awakens dormant qualities in our consciousness. Today you'll discover why your current strength may be weakening you, and how to activate the 81 hidden powers that already exist within you. The wisdom I will share does not come from modern interpretations or Western adaptations. It comes from the purest source of Taoism, from the understanding that when Lao Tzu wrote, "The wise man does not act, but nothing remains undone," he wasn't talking about passivity. He was revealing the secret of a force so natural and powerful that it works effortlessly, like water carving mountains by simply flowing. I spent years studying not only the text but also living these practices, observing how ancient masters applied these teachings in real life, far from monasteries and temples. Welcome to Axiom Sage, where ancient wisdom meets modern life. I am your guide on this journey of discovery into the hidden powers of Lao Tzu, and today we will delve into the deepest secret of the Tao Te Ching. You already possess within you the 81 qualities of a Taoist sage, but modern life has taught us to seek power in the wrong places. Prepare to discover that true inner revolution doesn't come from adding more power to your life, but from removing everything that blocks your natural wisdom. This isn't just another video about Chinese philosophy. It's a practical map for awakening powers you never knew existed, using the world's oldest science, the art of living in harmony with the Tao. In the next 60 minutes, you'll not only understand why you've been feeling exhausted fighting the current of life, but you'll also discover how to become invincible through non-resistance, powerful through simplicity, and wise through not knowing. The 81 chapters of the Tao Te Ching are, in fact, 81 superpowers waiting to be activated. Have you ever felt that profound exhaustion that comes not from the body, but from the soul? That feeling of constantly swimming against an invisible current, where every achievement demands superhuman effort, and every victory leaves a bitter taste of, "Is it worth it?" This is modern anxiety as a disconnect from the Tao. We live seeking power in the wrong place, when Lao Tzu already revealed over 2,000 years ago that true strength lies in harmony with the natural flow of life. It's no coincidence that our generation is the most anxious in history, precisely when we have access to more resources, technology, and opportunities than any previous civilization. What few realize is that the 81 chapters of the Tao Te Ching are not just philosophical texts for intellectual reflection. They are precise vibrational frequencies, each verse designed to activate a specific inner quality that lies dormant within you. Buddha also taught about the different states of consciousness we can awaken, but Lao Tzu was even more direct. He encoded in each chapter a practical key to unlocking aspects of our natural wisdom that modern society has taught us to ignore. When you read, "The Tao that can be expressed is not the eternal Tao," you are not just receiving information, you are being invited to activate a state of consciousness beyond conceptual thought. But here's the problem that needs to be exposed today. Why do we try to control instead of flow? The burnout epidemic plaguing our generation doesn't come from overworking. It comes from swimming against the natural current of existence. Zhuangzi, Lao Tzu's great disciple, showed us through profound parables that flexibility overcomes rigidity, that the tree that bends in the storm survives while the rigid one breaks. However, our culture programs us to be rigid, controlling, always pushing life in directions it doesn't naturally want to go. There's a fundamental difference between forced power and natural power that determines whether you live in harmony or in constant internal conflict. Our society teaches us to conquer through brute force, imposition, and destructive competition, but Lao Tzu revealed a truth that modern science is only beginning to prove. Water conquers rock not by force, but by gentle persistence. Neuroscientists today discover that the brain functions better in states of flow than in states of forced tension, that creativity emerges from focused relaxation, not constant pressure. And here's something you need to check in your own life right now. How can you recognize if you're living against the Tao? The signs are more subtle than we imagine, but once you recognize them, everything makes sense. constant anxiety even when things are fine on the surface, a compulsive need to control outcomes and people, relationships that turn into battlefields where no one ever truly wins, a feeling of always chasing without ever achieving true peace. These aren't personality defects or weaknesses. They're clear symptoms of a disconnect with your natural Taoist wisdom. I need to destroy one of the biggest lies our culture tells us about power and success, because until you fully understand it, you'll continue to waste your vital energy fighting your own nature. Modern society has convinced us that strength means always pushing, always forcing, always being on, always maximizing, optimizing, and achieving through sheer muscular determination. But there's a devastating neuroscience behind burnout that no one wants to face. When we constantly push ourselves, the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for intelligent decision-making and creativity, goes into chronic overload, blocking our intuition and natural creativity, which could solve problems much more elegantly. Lao Tzu understood over 2,000 years ago what neuroscience is now discovering. There is a profound paradox in non-action that yields more results than forced action. When he wrote, "The wise man does not act, but nothing remains undone," he wasn't preaching lazy passivity or irresponsible inaction. He was revealing the secret of Wu Wei, action that flows at the right moment, with the exact energy needed, in harmony with natural circumstances. It's like a martial arts master who wins not through brute force, but by redirecting the opponent's force against himself. It's like water that naturally finds the most efficient path down a mountain, unhurriedly yet steadily, effortlessly yet with absolute power. But you need to identify with brutal honesty where you're going against the current in your own life, because these signs are more common than we realize. Chronic procrastination isn't laziness. It's your inner wisdom telling you that you're trying to force something at the wrong time or in the wrong way. Relationships that constantly drain your energy aren't just difficult people. They're signs that you're trying to control or change what can't be controlled, instead of flowing with the natural dynamics of human connection. That constant feeling of fighting something invisible, even when you're being productive, is your Taoist conscience trying to alert you that there's a smarter way. The metaphor of water carving stone is not romantic poetry. It is pure science applied to human life. True power is not violent imposition that generates resistance and counterattacks. It is persistent, intelligent influence that works with natural laws rather than against them. Notice how a river never directly fights a large rock. It simply works around it, finds the cracks, and applies gentle but constant pressure until the rock naturally yields. In human relationships, this means stopping trying to convince people through aggressive arguments and starting to influence through consistent example. In the workplace, it means stopping forcing solutions that create more problems and starting to find paths that everyone involved can naturally accept. I'm going to teach you a practical 3-minute exercise that can revolutionize your relationship with effort. The technique of detecting internal resistance developed by Taoist masters. Stop everything you're doing and choose a current situation in your life where you feel like you're pushing too hard, whether it's a project, a relationship, or a personal goal. Close your eyes, take 3 deep breaths, and silently ask yourself this question. Where am I forcing instead of flowing? Don't try to answer with your logical mind. Simply observe what physical sensations arise in your body, what tensions appear, what resistance you may feel. Now ask yourself, if I trusted the natural timing of this situation, how would I act differently? The answers that emerge aren't thoughts. They are direct insights from your Taoist wisdom manifesting. Now I will reveal the 3 powers that Lao Tzu considered more essential than any technique, strategy, or intellectual knowledge, but that our modern culture not only ignores, it actively trains us to reject as signs of weakness. These are the 3 treasures that every Taoist sage develops as the foundation for every other power: compassion, simplicity, and humility. But before you dismiss this as monk talk, you need to understand that these are not moral or religious concepts. They are advanced psychological technologies that generate measurable, practical results in your everyday life, from your personal relationships to your leadership and professional achievement. The first lost treasure is true compassion, and this is why we so systematically confuse compassion with weakness. Our competitive society programs us from childhood to believe that being kind, understanding, or empathetic makes us vulnerable to attacks from smarter people who have taken advantage of our kindness. But Lao Tzu taught something that modern social neuroscience is confirming. Water nourishes all things without competing with them. Water is the most powerful element in nature precisely because it doesn't waste energy on unnecessary competition. It simply flows to where it is most useful, nourishes what it encounters, and in the process becomes indispensable for all life. Truly compassionate people are not manipulable or naive. They develop such refined emotional intelligence that they can see through the masks others wear and respond to real needs, not superficial dramas. Practical compassion means developing the ability to see the suffering behind anger, the insecurity behind arrogance, the fear behind aggression. When you master this, people stop being adversaries to be defeated and become human beings to be understood. And here's the paradox that changes everything. When you stop fighting people and begin to understand their deepest motivations, they naturally begin to cooperate with you instead of resisting. It's not manipulation. It's recognition that we all essentially want the same things: to be seen, to be understood, to be valued, and to have our contributions recognized. The second treasure is simplicity as a direct antidote to the digital anxiety that is destroying our ability to concentrate and achieve inner peace. The more we complicate our external lives, the more we disconnect from our natural inner wisdom. Lao Tzu observed that, in the pursuit of knowledge, something is gained every day. In the pursuit of wisdom, something is given up every day. Our culture addicts us to complexity. More apps, more techniques, more information, more options, more stimuli. But Zen Master Ryokan lived a life of radical simplicity, possessing only the essentials, and radiated such profound peace that people traveled days just to be in his presence for a few minutes. Simplicity isn't poverty or deprivation. It's intelligent curation. It's the ability to distinguish between what truly matters and what's just noise masquerading as opportunity. Neuroscientists have discovered that the human brain makes approximately 35,000 decisions a day, and each unnecessary decision depletes our mental energy available for truly important decisions. Taoist simplicity means eliminating irrelevant choices to preserve mental energy for choices that truly shape your life. It means having fewer things, but each carefully chosen one is truly useful. It means fewer relationships, but each one cultivated with depth and authenticity. The third treasure, humility, is perhaps the most misunderstood in our culture of inflated ego and constant self-promotion. True humility is not self-devaluation, self-deprecation, or diminishing oneself to make others feel greater. Taoist humility is the profound and liberating recognition of our true place in the great flow of life, neither smaller nor greater than others, but an integral part of an interdependent network where our individual strength emerges precisely from our ability to cooperate harmoniously with forces greater than ourselves. This, paradoxically, gives us far more real power than an inflated and isolated ego. Truly humble people don't need to prove anything to anyone. They don't waste energy on ego battles. They don't take offense to constructive criticism because they know there's always more to learn. They become like invisible teachers who profoundly influence without needing credit or public recognition. Lao Tzu wrote, "The best leader is one whose followers, when the work is done, say, 'We did it ourselves.'" This is the power of practical humility, creating conditions for others to shine, knowing that as everyone grows, you naturally grow with them. I'll share with you a true story that perfectly illustrates how these three treasures work in modern life. I know an executive who was on the verge of burnout, leading an unmotivated team at a company going through a crisis. Instead of applying more pressure and control, he decided to experiment with the three Taoist treasures. First, he began practicing genuine compassion. Instead of judging his employees for low productivity, he began investigating the personal pressures each one faced and how he could genuinely support them. Second, he drastically streamlined the company's processes, eliminating unnecessary meetings and bureaucracy that didn't add real value. Third, he cultivated authentic humility. He stopped trying to be the expert in everything and began genuinely asking his team for their opinions on how to improve results. Within 6 months, productivity increased by 40%, employee turnover dropped to almost zero, and he himself regained his passion for work. It wasn't magic. It was the clever application of ancient wisdom to universal human dynamics. There's a paradox at the heart of Lao Tzu's teachings that may sound completely countercultural to modern minds addicted to constant productivity. Our obsession with filling every moment, our compulsion to always be doing something useful, our phobia of silence and empty spaces may be precisely what's blocking our ability to access deep insights and creative solutions. We live in an era where the fear of boredom has become almost a collective pathology, where we must constantly consume content, check notifications, and fill every second of downtime with external stimuli. But these aren't just bad habits. They're symptoms of a profound disconnection from the wisdom of fertile emptiness. When Lao Tzu wrote one of the most revolutionary metaphors in all of human philosophy, it is the empty space that makes the bowl useful. He was revealing a truth that our materialistic culture struggles to grasp. It is not the solid pottery that makes the bowl useful. It is the empty space in the center that allows it to hold water, food, or anything we need to carry. Likewise, it is not our minds filled with information, opinions, and accumulated knowledge that makes us wise. It is our ability to create empty spaces within where genuine insights can emerge naturally. Our culture values only the full. More data, more techniques, more content. But true wisdom resides in the gaps, the pauses, the silences between thoughts. Modern neuroscience has uncovered something Taoist masters have always known intuitively: why a full mind is inevitably a sterile mind in terms of genuine creativity. Research on neuroplasticity shows that the brain needs what scientists call default mode, periods of apparent inactivity where we are not focused on specific tasks, to integrate learning, form new neural connections, and generate the insights we call intuition. When we fill every moment with external stimuli, we prevent this deep processing from happening, becoming trapped in superficial thought patterns that merely recycle already known information rather than generating new wisdom. But it's crucial to distinguish between depressive emptiness and fertile emptiness, because there's a vast difference between these two states that determines whether silence becomes a portal to wisdom or a black hole of negative rumination. Depressive emptiness is characterized by a feeling of depletion, lack of energy, and disconnection from purpose and meaning. It's the result of emotional and mental exhaustion. Fertile emptiness, on the other hand, is a state of active receptivity, of alert stillness, of curious openness to whatever wants to emerge naturally. It's like the difference between parched soil where nothing grows and fallow soil, seemingly inactive but rich with potential that will blossom in the right season. And now I'm going to teach you a practice that can revolutionize your relationship with not knowing. The fertile not knowing technique, which Taoist masters developed to cultivate beginner's mind, that state of genuine openness where unexpected solutions can emerge without forcing. Take 5 minutes now, sit comfortably, and choose a current problem in your life for which you don't have a clear answer. Instead of trying to solve it, simply formulate the question in your mind and then completely abandon any attempt to find the answer. Repeat silently, "I don't know, and it's okay not to know." Notice the resistance that arises. Our conditioned mind hates admitting ignorance. But keep returning to the phrase, "I don't know, and I am open to finding out." For the last 2 minutes, simply observe how thoughts, sensations, or insights arise naturally, without judgment, without trying to organize them into immediate solutions. This is the art of creating empty space where your natural wisdom can manifest. I must now expose one of the most destructive diseases of the modern mindset: the addiction to toxic competition that has transformed virtually every area of our lives into unnecessary battlefields, generating chronic anxiety, superficial relationships, and a constant feeling of inadequacy, even when we are successful by external standards. Social media has become gladiatorial arenas where we compete for likes and validation. Corporate culture has created an environment where colleagues are adversaries in disguise. Even our personal relationships are contaminated by constant comparisons. Who earns more? Who has better relationships? Who seems happier? Who achieves more? This competitive mindset is not only stressful, it is profoundly energy inefficient and disconnects us from the natural collaboration that generates far superior results. Lao Tzu understood a strategic truth that Sun Tzu also taught in The Art of War, but which few apply in their personal lives: the supreme strategy of water, which always wins without ever attacking directly. Nothing in the world is softer than water, but for attacking what is hard and strong, nothing is superior to it. Water never seeks to dominate by force. It simply flows naturally into available spaces, nourishes whatever it encounters, and in the process becomes indispensable to all life. Sun Tzu wrote that to win without fighting is the height of skill, not because it is more morally beautiful, but because it is infinitely more energetically efficient and generates lasting results rather than temporary victories that create future enemies. And here's the insight that can immediately revolutionize your results. Why do genuinely non-competitive people often achieve so much more than obsessive competitors? Because when you stop wasting mental and emotional energy trying to outdo others, you can channel 100% of your creative force into genuine growth, real innovation, and authentic value building. Competitors are always looking around, comparing, copying, trying to win games others have created. People focused on Wu Wei are creating entirely new games where competition becomes irrelevant because they occupy unique spaces that no one else can occupy in exactly the same way. But you need to have the courage to identify where you're unnecessarily competing in your own life, because these patterns are more subtle and pervasive than we realize. Consider whether you've unconsciously turned collaboration into competition. When working as a team, do you genuinely want everyone to shine, or do you secretly hope to outshine others? Consider whether you've turned love into possession. In your intimate relationships, do you genuinely celebrate your partner's growth and independence, or do you feel threatened when they develop in areas where you're not an expert? Examine whether you've turned personal growth into constant comparison. When you evolve spiritually, professionally, or emotionally, is your motivation to become a more authentic version of yourself or to surpass others you perceive as less evolved? Now I'm going to teach you the invisible winner mental model that can completely transform your approach to relationships, work, and personal development. The invisible winner never advertises their victories, never needs to prove superiority, never wastes energy on dramatic rivalries. They simply focus on becoming so exceptionally good at what they do uniquely, and so generously collaborative with others, that their influence grows naturally without external resistance. It's like a tree that never needs to compete for space. It simply grows toward the light, offers shade and fruit to those who pass by, and in the process becomes a natural landmark in the landscape. In practice, this means developing a level of personal excellence so genuine that you become the person others turn to when they need help, advice, or collaboration in your area of expertise. It means building relationships so grounded in genuine mutual value that people naturally want to support and recommend you, not out of obligation but out of genuine gratitude. It means creating work so aligned with your natural gifts and so useful to others that opportunities arise organically, without you having to forcefully network or promote yourself in an uncomfortable way. The most powerful practical demonstration I can offer is this. Choose a current situation in your life where you feel like you're competing or proving something to someone. It could be at work, in relationships, or even to yourself. For an entire week, experiment with a non-competitive approach. Instead of trying to win, focus on contributing genuine value. Instead of trying to impress, focus on being authentically helpful. Instead of trying to control outcomes, focus on doing your part with excellence and letting the results emerge naturally. Observe not only what happens externally, but how you feel internally. The energetic difference between competing and contributing is transformative. You'll discover that when you stop fighting others, you paradoxically become invincible, because you're playing a completely different game where everyone can win. We now come to Lao Tzu's most radical and transformative teaching, the one that separates true practitioners of the Tao from those who merely collect inspirational quotes. Because our natural tendency to run away from difficulties rather than learn deeply from them is what keeps us trapped in repetitive cycles of similar problems, while those who master the art of inner alchemy can transform any crisis into fuel for accelerated evolution. Our society of comfort has programmed us to avoid discomfort, pain, frustration, and conflict as if they were enemies to be eliminated. But Lao Tzu knew something that modern therapists are rediscovering. When we try to avoid difficult experiences, they don't disappear. They accumulate in the unconscious and return amplified until we are forced to face them. The Taoist principle of reversal is one of the most powerful natural laws in existence, yet one we rarely consciously apply to our personal lives. When something reaches its extreme, it naturally returns to its opposite. You can observe this in all of nature's cycles. After the harshest winter comes the most vibrant spring. After the darkest night comes the brightest dawn. After the fiercest storm comes the deepest calm. But what few realize is that this law also operates in the internal cycles of human growth. Our greatest crises often precede our greatest breakthroughs. Our moments of greatest confusion can be portals to revolutionary clarity. Our periods of greatest loneliness can connect us with aspects of ourselves we would never know amidst the constant social noise. The neuroscience of resilience confirms what Taoist masters have always known. The human brain develops new neural connections, greater cognitive flexibility, and expanded problem-solving capabilities precisely through challenges that initially seem destructive. This is what neuroscientists call post-traumatic growth. Not just surviving hardship, but using the transformative energy of chaos to develop qualities that would never exist under conditions of constant comfort. Difficulties are not obstacles in the path. They are the very pathway through which our latent wisdom manifests. But there's a crucial difference between passively resisting life's inevitable transformations and consciously using those transformations as catalysts for targeted growth. Resistance means wasting energy trying to keep things exactly as they were, denying that change is the only universal constant, fighting against currents that are far greater than our individual will. Allowing conscious transformation means developing the ability to surf the waves of change rather than be swept away by them, to find opportunities hidden within apparent tragedies, to use the energy of chaos to reorganize ourselves to higher levels of functioning. I'm going to teach you the 3 returns technique, a practical method inspired directly by the Tao for transforming any current problem into 3 concrete lessons and constructive actions that can accelerate your growth, rather than merely superficially resolving the crisis. First, identify a significant challenge you're facing right now. It could be professional, relationship-related, health-related, financial, any area where you feel like you're fighting against something bigger than yourself. Second, instead of focusing on what you want to stop happening, ask, what quality is this situation forcing me to develop that I would never develop voluntarily? It could be patience, courage, flexibility, compassion, discernment. There's always a capacity being forged in the fire of difficulty. Third, ask, if I were to look back on this situation 5 years from now, having grown tremendously through it, what advice would I give to my current self? This question activates your future wisdom and connects you with the expanded perspective you will naturally develop through experience. Fourth, ask, what concrete action can I take today that aligns with who I want to become through this experience, rather than just reacting to what I don't want to happen? This question transforms reactive energy into creative energy, moving you from the position of victim of circumstances to the position of conscious co-creator of your evolution. The practical difference between people who grow quickly through hardship and those who get stuck in repetitive cycles of similar problems isn't that the former face fewer challenges. They often face more, because they're willing to grow in areas where the latter prefer to remain in their comfort zone. The difference lies in their conscious relationship to change. Rather than seeing problems as evidence that something is wrong with them or with life, they develop the ability to see patterns, extract lessons, and use each crisis as valuable information about which aspects of themselves need to evolve to reach the next level of fulfillment and contribution. To recap our journey so far, we discovered that forced power weakens us and that true strength emerges from Wu Wei, action in harmony with natural timing. We explored how the three treasures, compassion, simplicity, and humility, are actually disguised superpowers that our culture teaches us to reject. We understood that fertile emptiness is where genuine insights are born, and that our obsession with constant fulfillment blocks our natural creativity. We saw that non-competition is more strategic than obsessive competition, generating superior results with much less energy drain. And now we understand that our difficulties contain precisely the elements necessary for our next evolution, if we develop eyes to see opportunities where others see only problems. Now we come to the moment to integrate all we have discovered into a final revelation that can forever change your relationship with power, wisdom, and your own untapped potential. The 81 chapters of the Tao Te Ching were never intended to be read as literature or abstract philosophy. Each verse is a specific frequency, an activation code for latent qualities within your consciousness that are waiting to be awakened through mindful practice. Dogen, the great Zen master, taught that practice and enlightenment are one. We do not practice to one day become wise. We practice because each moment of mindful practice is already the manifestation of wisdom in action. But how do you recognize whether you're truly awakening your natural Taoist wisdom, rather than just accumulating more intellectual concepts? The signs are unmistakable and practical. Your relationships begin to flow with much less drama and much more genuine harmony because you stop trying to control and start influencing through example. Your work becomes more efficient and satisfying, not because you work longer hours, but because you find the natural rhythm where effort and results organically align. Your anxiety gradually transforms into a calm presence, not because you avoid problems, but because you develop deep confidence in your ability to navigate any situation with wisdom rather than impulsive reaction. Here is the ultimate paradox that Lao Tzu offers us as the ultimate teacher. He who knows does not speak, he who speaks does not know. This does not mean that wise people are mute or that sharing knowledge is wrong. It means that true power is expressed primarily through being, not through compulsive doing or the need to prove knowledge through words. When you truly master something, your competence becomes so natural that it doesn't need to be advertised. It simply manifests itself through your presence and actions. Truly powerful people rarely talk about their power. Genuinely wise people rarely need to prove their wisdom. And authentically transformed people radiate change without needing to convince anyone that they have changed. And this brings us to the final understanding that can revolutionize your daily life. Your daily existence becomes your personal spiritual laboratory, where every ordinary situation becomes an extraordinary opportunity to practice Wu Wei, cultivate the three treasures, and apply the wisdom of non-effort. Talking to an irritated colleague becomes a practice of compassion. Tackling a complex project becomes an exercise in focused simplicity. Dealing with criticism becomes a cultivation of genuine humility. Moments of uncertainty become portals to access the fertile void. Conflicts become opportunities to practice non-competition. Crises become raw materials for inner alchemy. How can you start activating your first Taoist powers today? 3 fundamental practices can kickstart your transformation immediately. First, observe before you react. Before responding automatically to any situation, pause for 3 seconds and ask, what would be the wisest response here? Instead of, what would be the quickest response? Second, tune into natural timing. Before forcing any important action, tune into your body and intuition to sense whether it's the right moment to act or whether it's time to wait and prepare. Third, find strength in gentleness. Whenever you feel the urge to use brute force to solve something, first try the water approach. Bypass, nurture, and persist gently until you find the path of least resistance that yields the most lasting result. The journey of the 81 powers is not a distant goal to be achieved. It is a gradual recognition that the wisdom you seek does not come from outside, but from the conscious return to your original nature, which is already complete, already wise, already powerful. Lao Tzu, you, and the eternal Tao are aspects of the same universal intelligence manifesting through different forms. When you practice the Taoist path, you are not learning something new. You are remembering something you have always known, but that social conditioning has taught you to forget. We've reached the end of this journey through Lao Tzu's hidden secrets, but in reality, you're only at the beginning of a transformation that could last the rest of your life. We need to be completely honest with ourselves about something our instant gratification culture doesn't want us to understand. Most people who've watched this video thus far will never consistently apply what they've learned today. They'll return to their usual lives, continuing to swim against the current, forcing solutions, competing unnecessarily, fleeing the fertile void, and resisting the natural transformations that could liberate them. Not out of malice or laziness, but because it's infinitely easier to remain in familiar patterns of suffering than to develop the gentle discipline of Taoist wisdom. But you can be the exception that confirms the possibility of real transformation. You can be the person who not only intellectually understands that water conquers rock, but who develops the persistent patience to apply this principle when your career seems stagnant, when relationships become challenging, when life pushes you in directions you hadn't planned. You can be someone who not only admires the idea of compassion, simplicity, and humility, but who practices these three treasures in the most difficult moments, when your ego wants to react with pride, complicate with anxiety, or compete for external validation. Taoist transformation doesn't happen through grand dramatic gestures or radical overnight changes. It develops through small, conscious choices repeated daily until they become second nature. It's choosing to take 3 deep breaths before reacting when someone irritates you. It's simplifying a complicated decision by asking, what really matters here? It's finding ways to contribute genuine value instead of simply competing for attention. It's transforming moments of uncertainty into opportunities to practice trust in the natural flow of life. It's using each difficulty as raw material to develop qualities you would never voluntarily cultivate in times of comfort. If you feel that this message resonates deeply with something within you that has been waiting to be awakened, if you recognize that your life can be infinitely more harmonious and powerful when aligned with the principles of the Tao, then you are exactly the type of person who can benefit tremendously from the upcoming content we are preparing here at Axiom Sage. We will explore other Eastern masters, other ancient practices, and other paths to integrate ancient wisdom into the complexity of modern life. Subscribe now and turn on notifications, because each video is a portal to a different aspect of conscious transformation that can accelerate your evolution in ways you can't even imagine yet. And leave a comment with which of Lao Tzu's 81 powers touched your heart most today. Was it the discovery that your current strength may be weakening you? Was it the revelation of the 3 lost treasures our culture teaches us to reject? Was it the understanding that fertile emptiness is where genuine insights are born? Was it the strategy of non-competition that generates superior results with less wear and tear? Or was it the inner alchemy that transforms problems into portals for accelerated growth? Share your experience, because when you interact genuinely, you become each other's teachers, creating a conscious community where everyone grows together. Remember, the Tao that can be fully explained in 60 minutes is not the eternal Tao you can live every day for the next 60 years. This video is just a map. The real journey happens when you close this screen and begin to practice in your real life the principles that resonate most deeply with your inner wisdom. Lao Tzu's 81 powers are not concepts to be grasped. They are spiritual technologies to be lived until they become as natural as breathing. Your transformation begins now. Your wisdom has been waiting only for you to remember it. And the eternal Tao flows through you whether you recognize it or not. But when you do, your life becomes art, your presence becomes healing, and your journey becomes a gift to all beings fortunate enough to cross your path.